The icy sea breeze struck Adrian Cole's face as he stood alone on the deserted shoreline before sunrise. The crashing waves echoed the chaos inside his mind, and with every step toward the water, the weight of his failures felt harder to escape. His billion-dollar empire was falling apart, the media had turned him into a villain, and the future he had spent years building now seemed ready to disappear beneath the tide. Just as he prepared to lose himself in the silence, a tiny voice gently interrupted his thoughts. "Can I sit with you for a little while?" Startled, Adrian barely glanced over and quietly replied that he wanted to be left alone. But instead of walking away, the little girl calmly sat beside him, smiling with innocent confidence. "I don't have to talk," she whispered. "Grandma says when someone is hurting, sharing the silence makes it easier to carry." For the first time that morning, Adrian looked away from the endless ocean and into the bright, fearless eyes of a child who had unknowingly stepped into the darkest moment of his life. The icy sea breeze struck Adrian Cole's face as he stood alone on the deserted shoreline before sunrise. The crashing waves echoed the chaos inside his mind, and with every step toward the water, the weight of his failures felt harder to escape. His billion-dollar empire was falling apart, the media had turned him into a villain, and the future he had spent years building now seemed ready to disappear beneath the tide. Just as he prepared to lose himself in the silence, a tiny voice gently interrupted his thoughts. "Can I sit with you for a little while?" Startled, Adrian barely glanced over and quietly replied that he wanted to be left alone. But instead of walking away, the little girl calmly sat beside him, smiling with innocent confidence. "I don't have to talk," she whispered. "Grandma says when someone is hurting, sharing the silence makes it easier to carry." For the first time that morning, Adrian looked away from the endless ocean and into the bright, fearless eyes of a child who had unknowingly stepped into the darkest moment of his life. Before Adrian could say another word, a woman's worried voice called from farther down the beach. The little girl instantly waved with excitement. "I'm over here, Mum." Moments later, her mother hurried over, clearly relieved to find her safe. Embarrassed, she apologized, explaining that her daughter had a habit of making friends with complete strangers. Adrian simply shook his head. "She didn't bother me," he admitted quietly. "She actually helped more than she knows." The little girl beamed with pride, while her mother introduced herself as Elena. When Adrian reluctantly gave his full name, Elena's expression subtly changed. She recognized him immediately from the news, the billionaire CEO whose company was surrounded by controversy and whose face had filled every headline for days. Before either of them could say more, Adrian's phone began vibrating non-stop. 6 missed calls, 3 urgent messages, all from his closest executive, Marcus. Adrian stepped a few feet away and answered. The moment he heard Marcus's tense voice, he knew the nightmare wasn't over. Something far worse had just begun. Marcus didn't waste a second. "We've got a disaster," he said. Adrian's expression turned cold as he listened. The final version of the company's biggest infrastructure contract had been secretly altered before it was approved. Hidden deep inside the document was a clause that could cost the company billions of dollars and destroy everything Cole Dynamics had built. Adrian refused to believe it. "Who authorized it?" he demanded. Marcus hesitated before answering. "According to the official records." "You did." Adrian froze. He knew he had never signed such a contract. Someone had forged his authorization and carefully planned the betrayal. As another wave crashed against the shore, he looked at the endless ocean, remembering the little girl's words. "Build it again, stronger than before." Taking a slow breath, Adrian's fear disappeared, replaced by determination. "Tell everyone to meet in the boardroom," he said firmly. "No panic. We deal with facts, not emotions. Whoever started this war is about to find out they chose the wrong man to destroy." Less than an hour later, Adrian walked into the towering headquarters of Cole Dynamics, where an uneasy silence had replaced the usual confidence. Employees whispered as he passed, sensing that something serious had happened. Inside the boardroom, his senior executives were already waiting. Financial experts warned that if the altered contract remained valid, the company could face catastrophic losses, while the media was already preparing stories that could destroy its reputation overnight. Marcus slid the suspicious contract across the table. Adrian examined every page until his eyes stopped on a cleverly hidden clause that changed the entire agreement. "This wasn't a mistake," he said calmly. "Someone planted it." The room fell silent. Some executives wanted an immediate public response, but Adrian shook his head. "We don't react out of fear," he said. "We investigate, gather proof, and then we strike with the truth." He ordered every email, digital record, security log, and document related to the contract to be locked down and reviewed. As everyone rushed to carry out his instructions, Adrian remembered the little girl's sandcastle. Just like the waves couldn't defeat someone willing to rebuild, he refused to let betrayal become the end of his story. Just as the investigation gained momentum, an anonymous message appeared on Adrian's phone. It contained only one chilling sentence: "Look into Harbour Point Phase 2. Someone died because of it." The words sent a cold shiver through the room. Adrian immediately called Marcus and ordered him to uncover everything connected to the project. Within hours, Marcus returned with a disturbing file. The victim was Noah Keane, one of the company's most respected risk analysts, a brilliant employee who had officially died in what authorities labeled a tragic car accident. But neither Adrian nor Marcus believed it was an accident. Noah had been investigating Harbour Point shortly before his death, and now it seemed impossible to ignore the connection. Convinced that Noah had discovered something dangerous, Adrian tracked down Noah's fiancée, Maya. When she finally opened her door, grief filled her eyes, but so did suspicion. Adrian spoke honestly. "I'm not here to protect the company," he said quietly. "I'm here to uncover the truth Noah gave his life trying to expose." For the first time, Maya hesitated, then slowly stepped aside, silently inviting them in. Inside the quiet apartment, Maya disappeared into another room and returned holding an old, worn notebook that Noah had guarded with his life. With trembling hands, she placed it in front of Adrian. "He stopped trusting people," she whispered. So he wrote down everything. Adrian carefully opened the notebook and found pages filled with coded notes, secret money transfers, suspicious transactions, altered contracts, and names connected to Harbour Point Phase 2. Every page revealed a deeper layer of corruption than anyone had imagined. Marcus looked over Adrian's shoulder, his face turning pale. "This is enough to expose them," he murmured. But Maya slowly shook her head. "No, this is only part of it." She explained that before Noah died, he had rented a hidden storage unit where he kept the strongest evidence in case something happened to him. "He believed someone honest would come looking for the truth," she said, locking eyes with Adrian. "I think he was waiting for you." In that moment, Adrian realized this was no longer just a battle to save his company. It had become a mission to finish what an innocent man had sacrificed his life to begin. The next morning, every major news network gathered outside Cold Dynamics as Adrian prepared for the most important press conference of his career. Reporters expected excuses, damage control, or another carefully crafted corporate statement. Instead, Adrian walked to the podium with complete confidence and placed Noah's worn notebook in front of the cameras. The room fell silent. "For the past several days," he began, "the world has questioned my company. Some of those concerns were justified, but the truth goes far deeper than anyone realizes." He revealed that hidden contracts had been manipulated, company records had been falsified, and millions of dollars had been secretly redirected through a carefully planned scheme. Then he spoke the name no one expected to hear: Noah Keane. Adrian honored him as a man who had risked and ultimately lost his life while trying to expose the corruption. He announced that every piece of evidence had already been handed over to federal investigators and that everyone involved would be held accountable, no matter how powerful they were. Within seconds, the room exploded with flashing cameras, shouted questions, and breaking news alerts. But Adrian didn't answer another word. He had finally stopped defending himself and started revealing the truth. Within days, the story that had once painted Adrian as the villain took a dramatic turn. Authorities officially launched multiple investigations, powerful executives began resigning, and the people responsible for the conspiracy found themselves under intense legal scrutiny. Although his company's future was finally becoming secure again, Adrian didn't feel victorious. Justice had been served, but Noah's life could never be returned. Seeking a moment of peace, he quietly drove back to the same beach where everything had changed. As soon as he stepped onto the sand, a cheerful voice called out, "You came back." It was the little girl, already gathering shells for another sand castle. Adrian smiled for the first time in what felt like forever and knelt beside her. Together they rebuilt the tiny house the waves had washed away. "Did you fix everything?" she asked innocently. Adrian looked at the ocean before answering. "Not everything," he admitted softly. The little girl nodded as if she already understood. "That's okay," she whispered. "The important thing is, you never stopped building." Her simple words reminded Adrian that true strength isn't measured by never falling, it's measured by having the courage to rise again. No matter how many times life knocks you down. The sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon. Adrian and the little girl placed the final shell on top of their sand castle. This time, when the waves rolled in, the little house remained standing. The little girl smiled proudly. "See? It's stronger now." Adrian looked at her with grateful eyes and asked, "Why didn't it fall this time?" She grinned and answered, "Because you didn't build it alone." Those simple words stayed with him long after he left the beach. He realized that real wealth isn't measured by money, power, or success. It's measured by the people who stand beside you when everything else falls apart. The broken billionaire who had once come to the shore ready to give up walked away with something far more valuable than his fortune: hope, purpose, and the courage to begin again. Sometimes the smallest voice can save the strongest soul, and the greatest miracles arrive in the most unexpected ways. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more unforgettable stories of hope, courage, and second chances. Also, leave a comment below and tell us what lesson from Adrian's journey stayed with you the most. Your story might inspire someone who needs hope today.